all continents put together will fit into Africa.
Theory of criminal investigation. Follow the rich white man.
Follow the rich white man?
Exactly. Now you're learning. Every big crime has a rich white man behind it waiting for his cut. Now, in our case, we know who the rich white man is. Stephen Rain.
Who?
Stephen Rain, the hotel billionaire. I saw him on Ricky Tan's boat. When the shooting started, he was way too cool. Now, I'm gonna tell you something. When people start shooting, white people ain't that cool. They either running around, hiding behind tables, or screaming like, ah!
You sound like that all the time.
Let me tell you something about black people. When stuff goes down, we keep our cool.
Welcome back to the continuing session of Roll Call Part Number 2. If you're watching Roll Call Part Number 2, which you're listening to right now at the sound of my voice, it means that you would have watched the Part 1 previously before you could continue to this. Because if you're trying to watch this particular part, you will not understand a lot of the things that I'm saying, because we explained a whole lot of the reason for this particular series called the Roll Call on Part Number 1. So starting off, we want to make you understand on part number 2, the reason for transgenders. If it's your first time on the channel, you have to go watch the primer series and watch the part 1 so you can understand what we're saying, because if you jump on here and you watch this, you're going to be very, very confused. So I'm just going to continue on because we explained a whole lot of stuff on the part 1 before we got to this one. So continuing on. The reason for transgenders are this. The primary reason for transgenders is the fact that they are made as a symbol of worship to Satan. The reason for transgenders is because the people, the families who run the world through the Vatican, are making people to be habitation of demons to the worship of Satan, who is their God. And Satan is known as the Trinity. So the names of Satan were known as Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva by the families that run the world today. And when they invented Christianity, they changed those names to Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. There is no such thing. So when people use such names as God, it is not the creator of heaven and earth that you're worshiping. Those names got manufactured about, give or take, 500 years ago, or at the most 700 years ago, by Roman Christianity, to hide the true name of the Creator. So when you use such names as God, I want you to understand that you are addressing Satan. When you use such names as Jesus, Yehoshua, Yahushua, Yahweh, Jah, Jesus, all those names are the names that Roman Christianity provided for you guys, so you guys keep addressing and worshiping Satan, thinking that you are calling on the name of the Creator. Meanwhile, that is not his name. His name is not Jesus. His name is not Yeshua or Yehoshua. His name is not Yahweh Shai. If that's the way they say it, his name is not Yahweh. His name is not Yah. All those are fabricated names. So whenever you go into a church or wherever you are in the political atmosphere of this world, and when people start calling on those names, they are actually calling on the name of Satan. And what takes place is that demons are invoked into that gathering. So when you see people say they are falling under the Holy Spirit, the Holy Spirit is leading them, it's actually Satan that's leading them, because there is no Holy Spirit. We've explained that before on the film series we had on YouTube called Remnants, the Real Children of Israel. There is no such thing as a Holy Spirit. There is no such thing as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. There is only one creator of heaven and earth. So the primary reason for transgenders is in the worship of the Trinity, which is Satan, because the names Jupiter was the name of Satan in the Latin language, and it was also known as Zeus. Then there was a name of Satan again that's called Juno. According to the theology of those who worshipped this Juno, Juno was the wife of Zeus or Jupiter. And Minerva as well was a very popular goddess. So when they introduced these names into Christianity, they changed it to Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And all the temples that were the temples of Jupiter or Zeus or the temples of Juno and Minerva were changed to Christian churches. So that is why Christianity is actually the synagogue of Satan. Because after the very first church was built in Palestine called the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, every other church was a temple of either Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva, and they were all converted to Christian churches. We don't have time to get into that history right now, but that's just something for you guys to know. Getting back to what we were saying.
Taking her to the fever. I just get been some Mr. Funk Master. Yo, be that's who made taking her to the I just get been some Mr. Funk Master. Yo, be that's who many you know.
Primary reason for transgenders is the fact that they are made in worship of Satan, known as the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit today. Okay? The second reason why transgenders are made is because they are loyal servants to the families who run the world through the Vatican. Because a transgender is a habitation of demons. First of all, it's a loyal servant to the cause of the people who run this world in the name of Satan. so that they can be used to make sure they do what Satan wants them to do at all times, and therefore lead more people to hell. That's the second reason for transgenders. They are servants. Now, why are there so many transgenders, as you're going to find out on this particular video, including presidents? The reason why is this: the families that run the world create an alternate reality for us. But the alternate reality has to be something that they can control. So if they can't control that alternate reality which they have created for us, which has distorted our reality, our mind and our reasoning, we will be able to figure things out. So in order to distort our reality, they need to create a false reality for us, and they need to create the people who they use to control this false reality for us to believe in. So that is the reason for transgenders, to create an alternate reality which the people who put them there are the ones pulling the strings, and you behind here watching them think that these are people who organically happened, and so you believe whatever they say, not knowing that they are controlling what you see, what you hear, what you touch, and what you do for the people who want you to see the world or have a skewed world view, so you never understand your reality, that this world was indeed created by a creator, because Satan is the one running it right now. So that is what's going on. So it's more like, the best way to explain what the transgenders do is that they are actors. They are not real, but the acting is real. Does that make sense? So with that, let's get started on our roll call number 1. So the first person on our roll call today is a tennis player by the name of Coco Gauff. A lot of people think that this is actually a she, but Coco Gauff is not a she. He is actually another transgender in the form of Venus and Serena Williams, created to control a reality for you, so you can think that these people are actually real, because whatever they're going to do or act is going to be according to what the system wants them to do, and that's it. So Coco Gauff here, as you can see, he has a straight back, and as usual, you should know by now that straight backs are the backs of males. Let's go to another picture of Coco Gauff. Here's another picture of Coco Gauff. As you can see right here, there's no arch in the back. It's straight all the way up and down, and you can see right here that there is no hips that are below the crotch, because Coco Gauff is 100% male and not a female in any way, shape, or form. I pity the poor child, because he did not ask to be created this way. And it's so sad, you know, that human beings can do this to other human beings. Let's go to another picture of Coco Gauff. Here's another picture right here. As you can see, the arms are the arms of a man, just like we showed you on the advanced level of figuring out the gender of somebody. And as you can see, the space in between the arms is shaped like a diamond, like we said, as all men's arms will be, because Coco Gauff here is 100% male and not a female. Here is Coco Gauff again. We just want to show you that the way he's walking here is actually the walk of a male, leaning all the way to the foot that's behind him in this stance, because it's actually a man and not a woman. And as you can see, it's 100% female. This is no man in any way, shape, or form. Another picture of Coco Gauff here, still the same thing. No arch in the back, is a straight up and down torso, and it's 100% male. And here is Coco Gauff again. As you can see, that position of where he's resting his arms is actually the rest position for a male and not a female, because Coco Gauff is 100% male. Coco Gauff here, and here is the so-called parents of Coco Gauff. Now, they say that their names are Corey and Candy. This would be the most wicked parents in the whole entire world. And I would like to believe that these are not their real names, Corey and Candy Gauff. It's not the real name of these people. It's just a handle. Just a handle. Because they have raised up this boy to be used by the families who run the world to actually run the world in a way, shape, or form. Because Coco Gauff here is basically going to be a superstar in the future, used to control the reality or tell you a false reality for you to believe in. That's the reason for transgenders. Besides the fact that they are made in the worship of Satan, a habitation for demons. So this is utter wickedness that people can do this to their own child as they claim. And the way these people do things is that spread all throughout the hospitals in the world, they have specialized doctors who are dedicated to transgendering people. So in order for these people to be successful and hide the fact that they transgender children, they don't really have hospitals that are dedicated and say, okay, this hospital per se is dedicated to transgendering children. They just have the doctors. So they have doctors in almost every hospital in the world who are the doctors who do the surgeries, the people who do all the research on the drugs to use to transgender people. It's a sad reality. Let's continue on. So here is still another picture of Coco Gauff. As you can see right here, there's one thing I want to let you guys know. We didn't talk about this before. We want to address it right here. It's still on the advanced techniques of identifying gender. Now, for males, or let's say for everybody. So we start with a general premise first, and then we can explain this further down. For every human being in the world, all right, the highest place in someone's butt is just slightly above where your hip is, all right? So for males will have a higher butt. So for example, if you're looking at Coco Gauff right here and we draw a line, let's try to blow this up as much as we can, and we draw a line from here, all right? Right at the crest, this is the highest point of Coco Gauff's butt. So right around here is where his hips are. So with females, since their hips are farther below down the crotch, the butt will slope downwards longer, just slightly above those hips will be the highest point of that bum, a butt. So for males, the highest point will always be very high up. For females, it will be lower down towards their hips, because the man's hips is right around here. So this is the highest point in the bum, all right? For females, it's going to be farther down because the hips are below the crotch. So what Coco Gauff is exhibiting right here is the butt of a man. The highest point is right above the crotch, not lower as it should be for a female, because Coco Gauff is 100% male and not a woman in any way, shape, or form. Here's still another picture. As you can see, it's still a straight up and down torso. The highest point in that hip line is above the crotch, because Coco Gauff is 100% male and not a woman. And here is Coco Gauff with a trainer. The trainer's name is called Sylvester Black. So I want you to understand that this is an organized system of lies. Because if Sylvester Black here knows for a fact that this little boy is being dressed like a woman, he ought to tell the public, but he did not, because it's a whole organized system of lies. Now remember, the reason why we show you transgenders is so that you can get to see that there's an organized system of lies distorting our reality, and people are working hand in hand together to make sure that you guys stay confused and distorted for the reason why you are here in the earth. Because if they know that someone is a transgender, why are they not opening their mouths and telling you? All right. So with that, let's move on to the next roll call.
Taking her to the fever. I just get been some Mr. Funk Master. Yo be that's who made. Taking her to the I just get been some Mr. Funk Master. Yo be that's who many you know.
So the person next on the roll call is George Lucas, the so-called famed director of the Star Wars franchise, and which one of them is going to hit theaters in the month of December 2019. So as you can see here, George Lucas is 100% female. I bet you guys didn't know that, right? Well, George Lucas is, because on the advanced way that we determine gender right here, you can see that George Lucas' arms are following the contours of the body. And there's a way a woman keeps her arms, alright? Especially the palms of her arms have a certain position that's going to tell you that it's female. It's always going to follow the contours of the body. And as you can see right here, George Lucas starts spreading. And the widest point right here, which you can see where the spread of the hips goes, is below the crotch. Now what they do with people like George Lucas is that their clothes are specially designed to hide the female feminine form. So what they do in this type of clothes is that they make it have a long lapel, so you actually think that the crotch is right around here, which is absolutely false. So there's a type of female clothing or pants, I believe that they call, is it a low rider? I don't know if it's called a low rider, especially in the sense that the clothes is sewn in such a way that it hugs the female hip at the lowest point in the hip, because the female waist is above her navel. So they sew it in such a way that it hugs the female crotch at a very low level, just like, let's say, a man would be wearing sagging pants. This is what is happening with George Lucas's clothes that she's wearing right here, because it's actually a she, in the sense that they've sewn it in such a way that it looks like the crotch is right around here, to give you a false illusion of this hip that you're seeing that is spreading all the way down. You can see the Q angle here, which is very, very acute, because females have a much more acute Q angle than men, and the Q angle is the angle between the hip and the knee. So George Lucas' crotch is right around here, and that's where the widest point is, because George Lucas is 100% female, was not a man in any way, shape or form. So let's show you some more pictures, and here is that same thing again that we want to show you. See that arm swing? See that the way the arm swings is still trying to follow the contours of the body, but because they've done so much surgery to the midsection, it looks like this arm is so farther away apart, but it's still swinging like a female's arm, still trying to follow the contours. As you can see the angle, the way it swung right here, and still you can see right here that George Lucas's hips, right, the Q angle is the same as the Q angle of the female that's right beside her. As you can see right here, here's a female, and you can see the curves, same thing that George Lucas has, because George Lucas is 100% female, and you can see that the Q angle are almost the same, because these are two females working, one in George Lucas. Let's go to another picture of George Lucas, and here is George Lucas again here sitting, and we just want to show you the sitting position of George Lucas. All right, so when females sit, okay, when females sit, because a woman has a longer torso than a man. The reason for the longer torso of a female is because a female has a larger, longer, and wider pelvis for childbirth so that a child can stay inside the womb for the 9 months of conception. So when a woman sits in a chair, all right, from the point that she's sitting, so because she has a longer butt, all right, a longer, wider, and a bigger butt, all right, so a woman sits and the butt travel is much more longer in the chair because a woman's butt is wider and longer than a man. So the way George Lucas is sitting here, the navel position of a female is farther up in the torso of the body. So as George Lucas is sitting right here, the navel position for George Lucas is going to be right around this point. And that's way too high in the torso of the body for it to be male because George Lucas is 100% female. Let's go to another picture of George Lucas. So here is George Lucas again. As you can see, this is a woman because from this belt position he's wearing, let's call her right? She's wearing this low rider jeans specially designed that sits below, far below in the female abdomen to make it look like it's a male hip. And because of that, the navel position of George Lucas is way too exposed to be too high in the torso of the body for it to be male because males have a lower set navel in their bodies because they do not give birth. With females, it's higher up because a woman has a longer torso than a man. So this is the navel position, right, in George Lucas's body because George Lucas is 100% female. And so we get to the point of showing you who George Lucas's wife is. And she's actually a black woman. We're going to explain what really happens in the dynamics of people marrying transgenders. Because the real power behind George Lucas is this woman. So that means George Lucas is just the face of Star Wars. And the real person behind it is a black woman. Because people, you have to understand this. We're going to explain this far later in the video. Every technology that is used in this world, every discovery that has been known to man, everything that we use, from the underwear that you wear to the cell phone to the iPhone to whatever you use, is all discovered by Africans. We'll explain that far later and the reason why so you guys can understand. It's all discovered and known by Africans. The people who they tell you discovered whatever they discovered, whether it be Steve Jobs or whatever name or any other black face, is just a cover for the real Africans who discovered it. We'll show you how the dynamics of all this works later on, but for now, we just wanted you to understand that since George Lucas is transgendered, she cannot be the idea behind Star Wars. And the person controlling that idea is this woman right here. So let's continue on. So the person that you're looking at the screen, which you're trying to figure out who, is called actually Lauren Harrier. Now, Lauren Harrier was very popular, or made popular rather, on the movie that's called Spider-Man Homecoming. All right, and this is the guy in Spider-Man Homecoming, which he starred with, because it's actually he and not a she. So let's go to some pictures of Lauren Harrier to show you the identifying features that it's actually a he. So as you can see right here, here's Lauren Harrier, and the widest point in the body is above the crotch. So this is Lauren Harrier's hips. This is her crotch. Let's call it right. This is his crotch because it's actually a he, and the widest point here is above the crotch because Lauren Harrier here is 100% male and not a female in any way, shape, or form. So the question now we have to ask is this. The guy who starred in Spider-Man Homecoming, who was also in the Avengers, Endgame, and Infinity Wars, we have to ask this question. why did he not tell you that he was staring with a man in the movie called Spider-Man Homecoming? Because we want you to understand that there is an organized deception going on. It cannot be a coincidence that all these people who hang around with transgenders don't tell you there are transgenders. And then they come and they make out to tell you the whole truth about anything at all. They make out to be your heroes, the people you support, the people you look up to, that they're the ones fighting for you. What other lies and deception are they holding on to if they cannot tell you the simple truth that this is a man in Lauren Harrier here? Let's go to another picture of Lauren Harrier. And here's Lauren Harrier again with the same old picture. As you can see, the widest point in that body is above the crotch right here. And as you can see, Lauren Harrier has the straight arms of a man. The arms are not following the contours of the body like it should follow, like a female should. And as you can see right here, the space in between the arms, as we said, is in the shape of a diamond. It's not in the shape of a soft arrow pointing towards the torso of the body, as the space usually is for all females when they hang their arms to their body, because Lauren Harrier here is 100% male. Widest point in the body is above the crotch, because Lauren Harrier is 100% male, and that is the sign for a male. Next picture of Lauren Harrier again, same old thing right here. Widest point is above the crotch. And so with the man, the illusion they want to give you, so that when you look at a man and you think that you're looking at a female, is that Lauren Harrier here is wearing specially designed underwear. Now the underwear is far more shorter than it should be. Why is that the case? Because the female butt and the female pelvis is longer and wider. So the underwear that women usually wear takes up more space. But this particular man here, the underwear that's made for him to wear to make you think that you're actually looking at a female, is specially designed. It's very, very short. The underwear doesn't even have time to hug the curves of the body like it should naturally do for a woman, because this is a man. And the widest point right here, as you can see, is above the crotch, because Lauren Harrier is 100% male and not a woman in any way, shape, or form. Let's go to another picture of Lauren Harrier. Same old thing right here. The widest point is above the crotch, because the widest point, or let's say the hip position for a man, not the widest point, because the widest point in a man's body is always going to be his shoulders. So for males, the hips are above the crotch. And this is what Lauren Harrier is exhibiting, because the hips right here is above his crotch, because he is 100% male. Let's go to another picture of Lauren Harrier here. And here is Lauren Harrier with a man. The man's name is Justin Theroux. Justin Theroux was on the show that's called The Leftovers. It's supposed to be a Christian show or whatever show that depicts the rapture, that what happens after people are left behind after the rapture. It's a depiction of that, all right? Justin Theroux here has never told you one day in any way that he's been hanging around with a transgender in Lauren Harrier here. And yet people will look up to Justin Theroux. Why are they all so mum? I mean, would people not believe them, or would people not believe them to be outstanding members of society if they told you the truth about their activities? Why are they hiding this? Why is there so much conspiracy? Why is this organized silence about truth, about what's really going on? All right, we'll get to that in a minute, but for now, we just want you to see that Justin Theroux here is hanging around with Lauren Harrier. Let's go to the next picture of Lauren Harrier. And here is Lauren Harrier. There's no arch in the back. Do not be deceived by this. He has some ribs removed, all right? That's making this look like there is an arch, but it's a straight back. And as you can see, that this is a male rib cage because it's way too huge. A female rib cage is not this huge that reaches all the way almost down to the end of the abdomen. So Lauren Harrier here is 100% male and not a woman in any way, shape, or form. Let's go to our next roll call. So the next name on our roll call is the name of the person that's called Ellen Page. Ellen Page is an actress in Hollywood. She was one of the person who starred in the movie called Inception that had this man, or that had this woman rather to say, Leonardo DiCaprio. Leonardo DiCaprio, if I'm saying the name right, Leonardo DiCaprio, if I'm saying the name right, is also a female and a transgender. But right now you're looking at Ellen Page, and Ellen Page, as you can see, has a straight back of a man with no arch. Ellen Page has the straight back of a male because Ellen Page is 100% male and not a female in any way, shape, or form. Let's go to the next picture of Ellen Page. Here's an Ellen Page again with the same straight back of a male, as you can see right here. There's no arch in the back, as a woman should have an arch in the back because her pelvis is tilted forward for childbirth. But Ellen Page does not have any because Ellen Page is 100% male and not a female. Let's go to another picture of Ellen Page right here. And here's Ellen Page, as you can see right here, is trying to fake that, twist of the arm to make it look like the arm is hugging the curves of the body. But that's all lies because it's a twist. The arms are twisted. So that means there is a program. All right, it's just saying this is so heavy. All right, there are people who are paid to train transgenders to deceive you to believe that they are the sex that they appear to be. Because how would someone like Ellen Page right here know how to twist the arms? As you can see that he's actually twisting it to fake the female form, as we explained on Roll Call Part 1. Twisting the arms to make it look like it's hugging the curves of the body, when Ellen Page here is 100% male. How did he know that? Because there's an organized system that's put in place to do this. And the people are watching this video right now as I'm speaking to you. Let's continue on with another picture of Ellen Page. And here's another picture of Ellen Page. As you can see, it's 100% man. The hips are above the crotch. All right? Hips are above the crotch because it's a man. As you can see, the arms are straight. It's not following the contours of the body because Ellen Page is 100% man and not a female in any way, shape, or form. So with that, let's continue to our next roll call. The next person on our roll call is Steven Spielberg. Oh my goodness. We cannot even begin to tell you the so many honors that this woman has received in Steven Spielberg. But Steven Spielberg never told you that he's a female, born a woman, acting like a man. Well, let's start with Steven Spielberg's arms in the first place. And what do you notice about the arms? It's trying to follow an hourglass figure. As you can see right here from the elbows down, it's trying to hug the female form. But because so much surgery has been done to make this female form of Steven Spielberg look like a man, it doesn't really show that much in the body, but you can see that the skeleton never changes because there is no surgery that can be done to any skeleton to change it. You can do surgery to the body, but the skeleton, the bones, will remain the same. And this is what Steven Spielberg is exhibiting. As you can see, these arms are trying to follow the contours of the body as the way it hangs because Steven Spielberg is 100% female and not a man in any way, shape, or form. So the question now arises. There are so many people in the industry, the whole entire system of Hollywood knows about Steven Spielberg. Because when you are with Steven Spielberg, you will know that this is a woman. If you met Steven Spielberg today, your senses would tell you something is off. And you would know exactly that Steven Spielberg is a female. So why is it that the whole entire network of Hollywood has never mentioned this fact? And Steven Spielberg has been around in the industry for as long as 50 or 60 years actively directing even till today. If in fact she's the one making all the directions that we are shown in all the great movies, because at the end of the day, they are just the face behind it, just the name behind it. For you to actually believe that these are the people who are the movers and shakers of the world, when actually Steven Spielberg will be nothing but a servant, someone that is owned. And here it is, what I want you guys to know. It's a very, very sad reality. Transgenders are owned. I don't know how to say that. They are owned as if someone owns a car, a cell phone, or whatever. They are owned. Their lives are not their own. They are owned by whosoever is using them to make you believe in this false reality that they create for you. Because whatever Steven Spielberg will say, he will say based on the instructions that his owners or her owners will tell her. And with that, this constructed reality. So for example, let's say Steven Spielberg now says he wants to support gay rights. All right? People will naturally think that Steven Spielberg is supporting gay rights of his own independent free will. And so the people who look up to Steven Spielberg will actually believe that this is true without not knowing that the owners who own Steven Spielberg made her to say that she supports gay rights so that you can be used, so you can believe in the false reality that's created for you and actually believe that it's organic, that is happening naturally, it's something that you wanted. So this is how these people are used to influence your world without you knowing. And when you have no filter, you believe in them. And what is the filter that we're talking about? The filter is talking about truth, knowing the Creator and His commandment that you shall have no other creator besides Him, that you will judge everything you hear, see, touch, and do by the reality of what the Creator says. That is the filter. The filter is not having a good heart or believing that you're doing this by weighing your own facts out and judging it correctly. The only filter you have to understanding your world and reality is the Creator. And most people don't care because they think they know it all, without understanding the fact that there are only certain people who were meant to let you understand and teach you reality. And if you go on your own, you'll never know the truth, because that's the way things work. All right, let's continue with some more pictures of Steven Spielberg just to show you that this is actually 100% female and not a man in any way. And here is Steven Spielberg. As you can see, Steven Spielberg, they're fake to you the clothing on him because, as we've explained, it's specially made clothing to hide the fact that Steven Spielberg is female. So with this clothing, the way it's sewn in such a way that it's a low rider, if that's what the name is for female clothing that sits very low in the hip, is a low rider to make you believe that the crotch is longer. So instead of them sewing it with a shorter crotch for a low rider, as usually female pants are for low rider clothing, it's sewn with a longer crotch line. So you actually think and believe that Steven Spielberg's crotch is right around here, which is false. It's not. It's right around here. That's why the Q angle is there. All right? The Q angle starts below there because that's where Steven Spielberg's real crotch is, because she's 100% female and not a man in any way, shape, or form. Let's go to some more pictures of Steven Spielberg. And here is Steven Spielberg with George Lucas. We already showed you this, right? Here's George Lucas right there when they were younger, and here is Steven Spielberg when they were directing E.T., or the movie called E.T. As you can see right here, these are two females, and they never told you that. Let's go to another picture of Steven Spielberg. And here is a picture of Steven Spielberg that shows you the arm motion of a female. You see the way the arms roll now? You're actually seeing it. You're actually seeing it far more better here. The arms are still angled out from the elbows, as all female arms are, because Steven Spielberg is 100% female. The same with this little girl over here. The arms angle out from the elbows because it's trying to follow the female contours of the body, the hips. And this is what Steven Spielberg is exhibiting, because Steven Spielberg is 100% female. And Steven Spielberg's navel point is right around here. It's far too much deep into the torso of the body for it to be male. A male's navel is lower towards his waist because a man's torso is shorter than a female's torso that's longer because of a longer pelvis and wider pelvis to accommodate childbirth. And this is what Steven Spielberg is exhibiting. The angled out arm of a female trying to follow the contours of the body down to her hips, because Steven Spielberg is 100% female and not a man in any way. Let's continue some other pictures. And here is still Steven Spielberg again with George Lucas. And who is this? Harrison Ford. Why hasn't Harrison Ford told you that George Lucas that he has worked with and Steven Spielberg that he has worked with are two females? Why hasn't he told you that? Why is there such a big, huge conspiracy in telling us what's going on? Because your reality is being distorted from you. Satan wants you to go to hell. People do not understand this. It's what we're trying to make it sink deep into your consciousness. Everything that's happening in your world is controlled by demons and Satan. And the people who run the world, worship Satan. And they are soaking the whole of creation into the worship of Satan, because Satan is looking for souls to be in hell with him. All right, so let's continue to our next roll call. The next person up on our roll call is the name Maria Borges. So Borges is spelled B-O-R-G-E-S. We're going to put it up on the screen for you to go check it out yourself. And Maria Borges right here happens to be a Victoria's Secret model. So man, a transgendered man, or mutilated man, because there's no such thing as a transgender. We just use that word so you can relate and understand, because that's the name that popular culture has put upon people who mutilate themselves or who are mutilated persons, for you to actually believe that there is such a thing as you changing your gender one for the other. And as we've explained, gender is determined by the skeleton. And since the skeleton cannot be changed, you cannot change your gender. So you having genitalia of the opposite sex in a constructed form does not make you that gender. What you just did is mutilate yourself, because gender is determined by the skeleton. And here we're looking at another mutilated person in Maria Borges, who models for Victoria's Secret. And as you can see right here, Maria Borges' hips is above the crotch, in the same way that we already showed you with the person called Lauren Harrier of Spider-Man Homecoming. The underwear is sewn in such a way that it's very, very short. Okay? It's not long enough to fit on the curves of a natural woman, because a woman's pelvis is naturally longer and wider, and a man's pelvis is shorter and narrower. So the underwear here that's been given to this man, this mutilated man, is made to give you an illusion that is actually a female, but it's way too short in the width, because this is actually a man. And the widest position on that body, which is supposed to be the female hip, which should be below the crotch, is above the crotch, because Maria Borges is 100% man, not a woman. Let's go to another picture of Maria Borges, and still here it is again. As you can see, crotch is right here, hips, widest point is above it, because Maria Borges is 100% man and is trying to fake the form, all right, that is a female, all right. But as you can see, the space in between the arms is still shaped like a diamond. It's not shaped like a soft arrow pointing towards the torso of the body, because Maria Borges is 100% female, trained to know how to move the arms, all right, and hide or try to fake the contours of the body. But you can see it's not soft, because when a woman's arms are following the contours of the body, even the palms of the arms are softer in the way it is in a relaxed position trying to follow the hips. But this is not the case with Maria Borges, because Maria Borges is 100% male and not a woman in any shape or form. So with that, let's continue to our next roll call. So welcome to a presidential check time, in which we start checking each president as far back in history as we can to see if they stand up to the gender check, because there's been a worldwide conspiracy upon humankind by putting people who are mutilated in public offices to serve as habitation of demons and to serve as loyal servants to Satan and the families who run this world, who do not want you to understand what your world is all about. So that's why we're doing all this. And the first thing we have to say before we start is that with most of these transgenders, in the examples we had showed you earlier, like for example George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, you'll find out that they have a very bad taste in fashion. Upon all the money they have, these transgenders have a very bad taste in fashion. Why is it that these people in power who run the world have such a bad taste in fashion, and they have so much money, but yet they can't even dress well? It's because they are covering up the false appearance that they are trying to exude to you or trying to lie to you about, because they are not the gender that they claim. So for example, when you see people like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg have such a bad taste in fashion, they can't seem to dress well. The clothes seems to be out of proportion. All right, it looks like something they just walked into a store and a mad person assembled the clothes for them to wear. It's because they are covering up the form that they are, because they are not the gender that they claim. So another example that we're showing you right here is in President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and here is him at a younger age, but it's actually a she, because you can notice right away from the way Franklin D. Roosevelt stands in this picture with his arms at her waist, because this is how a woman places her hands on her waist, because Franklin D. Roosevelt is 100% female and was never a man in any way, shape or form, but yet this was the president of the United States, the president of the free country, and nobody told you. The law enforcement officials, which are supposed to protect you, the justice system, which is supposed to protect his people, allowed a woman and did not tell the public to be the United States president. Until today, nobody has uttered that fact to you. So what are they protecting? Are they protectors of the people? Are they making the laws that should protect you, or they are making laws that should kill you and destroy you? Because they are all Satanists, worshiping Satan. That's why everybody's so mum and quiet. But yet they'll go sit in the Senate, in the House committees, and create all sorts of stupid laws that keep you in check, that do not allow you to progress in whatsoever you're doing. They don't pay you enough for the jobs that you work. Those jobs they own. The companies they own. The money that they are paying to you, they own it. And yet they can't pay you enough. And yet they heap miseries upon you day and night. They poison your food and water and make you sick. And give you diseases like cancer and AIDS, which are not real. And they go and fight wars all around the country and send your sons and daughters to die. These are the same people whom you look up to. You look up to and say, these are the most outstanding citizens in the world. They can never do no wrong and do no harm. Because you have forsaken your Creator and His commandment. And you think that we came from evolution. You think we just arrived here from evolution. Because you've denied a Creator. And now you're worshiping Satan. Because every time you deny your Creator and His commandment, what do? You're worshiping Satan. You are a Satanist. So let's continue on with the presidential check of Franklin D. Roosevelt here. As you can see, the way Franklin D. Roosevelt places her hands on those hips. And you can see that even though he's wearing these baggy clothes, these are all female hips. Because as we said before, a female hip is naturally longer, naturally wider because of childbirth. And even through these clothes, you can tell that this is a female form in Franklin D. Roosevelt, a United States president. Let's move forward to another picture of him. So here's Franklin D. Roosevelt when he was much younger. I'm using the word he, but it's actually a she. When she was much younger, all right? When you look at this face, let me try to blow this up, even though it's not going to be clear because it's an older picture. You can tell that you're looking at a female right here. This is not a man, because Franklin D. Roosevelt was 100% female. So more pictures on Franklin D. Roosevelt. Here's still another picture of Franklin D. Roosevelt. When you take a look at that face, you know that you're looking at the face of a female and not a man, because Franklin D. Roosevelt was in no way, shape or form a man, but 100% female. And he lied to you, and she lied to you, as we would say correctly. Franklin D. Roosevelt, 100% female, not a man in any way, shape or form. Let's go for another picture. And here is Franklin D. Roosevelt again, and I want you guys to take a good look at the difference in how men and women walk. We explained that earlier on the part 1 of the roll call, and you're looking at it right here. So you can see that when Franklin D. Roosevelt is walking here, she's leaning all the weight of the body into the foot that's in front of her, all right? And you can see that the way she's walking is in a catwalk. The legs are stepping inside in front of each other as he walks, or as she walks, as I would say correctly, because Franklin D. Roosevelt is 100% female. So you can see the difference between how a man walks over here. He's leaning all his weight into the foot that's behind him because he doesn't have any wide hips. He doesn't have to navigate the way to balance the center of gravity when he's walking. So he just pushes his feet forward, and the push puts all the weight of the body on the foot that's behind. Man walk, female walk. Franklin D. Roosevelt, 100% female, was never a man in any way, shape, or form. Let's go to another picture of Franklin D. Roosevelt. And here's Franklin D. Roosevelt sitting. As you can see, there is an arch in that back. You can tell from this suit or coat that she's wearing that there is an arch in the back, which is a female genetic trait, because the pelvis is tilted forward, because Franklin D. Roosevelt is 100% female, the United States president. And yet all the world leaders have never mentioned this fact to you. Russia, who is busy as is being promoted on TV, always antagonizing America, has never one day said your United States president was a woman. It never said so. So what do you think they are doing? It's all a conspiracy against you. But you don't know that because you're busy believing in what people tell you instead of looking at the Creator. You know, it's so sad in today's world that people actually believe that when somebody is an albino, anybody with straight hair, that they are the most honest, sincere people in the world, and that they are the wisest people in the world. They have elevated albinos over the Creator, when albinos are in fact the dumbest people in the world, genetically dumb. And do not worry about that, since people, especially albinos, always like believing what's told them. When you tell them with facts, we are going to show you how genetically dumb you are. If you're an albino, anybody with straight hair, that all albinos are. And we'll get to that in a minute. But for now, let's continue with the pictures of Franklin D. Roosevelt to show you that she was 100% a woman and never a man in any way, shape, or form. And here's Franklin D. Roosevelt again. You can see there is an arch in that back. And as we explained earlier, with the female, a female has an elongated torso. Elongated torso because the pelvis is wider, is bigger, it's taller to accommodate children during procreation. So because of this, the female's waist point starts higher up in the body, immediately after the rib cage of a woman. the whole part of the body or torso of the body down is all pelvis because she has to carry children. So that is the reason why a female has an arch in her back, and that is the reason why the pelvis is so long. The waist point starts just right below the rib cage. And this is what this man, this supposed man in Franklin D. Roosevelt, is exhibiting in this picture right here. An arch in the back, an elongated torso of the body, which is all female pelvis from this point down. Because he, as we should have called her a she, is actually a female and not a man in any way, shape, or form. And the whole machinery of United States government has been lying to you. Let's continue on with some more pictures of Franklin D. Roosevelt. We already showed you this one. And here is the one, here is the last picture, which is so full of evidence that you cannot deny it. If you had been denying it, you can't deny this picture. I want you to take a good look at the arms of Franklin D. Roosevelt. If you are a man, I want you to try to sit in this position and try to make your arm look this way. Your arm will never bend or twist out from the elbow because you are not a woman. Only females exhibit this in their skeletal structure, in which the arms flare out like this because it's trying to follow the contours of the hips. A woman's arms are never straight because the arms of a woman always follow the contours of her body, trying to form that hourglass shape. And that's the reason why it flares like this, because from the elbows it's trying to form the hourglass spreading hips, which are spreading wider as it goes downwards towards her crotch. And this is what the man, the supposed man in Franklin D. Roosevelt, the United States president, is exhibiting to you, showing you that she is 100% female, because no man can do this. You can only do this if your skeletal structure is female, which means that you are female. And this is what Franklin D. Roosevelt is exhibiting, a United States president, 100% female. All right, so that was the last picture of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Let's continue on with the next one. So our next presidential check is John F. Kennedy, a beloved president of the United States who was killed in, I think, Texas, somewhere in Texas. We don't have time to get into that story right now, in which a lot of people, especially the public, are always enamored by JF Kennedy. They say that she was actually a very beloved president because it's actually a she and not a man. And in the many stories that's being told about the assassination of John F. Kennedy, if it was real, fabricated or not, we actually believe it was real, that he was really assassinated. They have never told you one day the autopsy report that came back on John F. Kennedy, which we're going to read to you before we start this particular analysis of John F. Kennedy, never ever said that John F. Kennedy was a woman. So in the many pictures that you'll find of John F. Kennedy online, you find that some of them is going to be a mix of him looking very manly, and some is not going to be so glaring that this is not a man. In those manly pictures of John F. Kennedy that you see, what they used was a body double. And that body double most times was her own brother, whom they took pictures of and told you was John F. Kennedy. The reason why it is so is because for the most part of John F. Kennedy's life, John F. Kennedy wore a brace around his middle portion of the body, because history does not show that John F. Kennedy had a lot of back issues. Now, why would John F. Kennedy have so much back issues as a man, which the public were not aware of? Because if you did notice the way John F. Kennedy walked, he walked like a person who had back issues. It's because John F. Kennedy was 100% female. So that means she would have gone through so many surgeries by her handlers in trying to make her male. And those surgeries would have affected her back. And that's why John F. Kennedy was always wearing a brace around his back. And the picture that you're looking at is one showing that. We're going to read some things about this picture first before we continue on, because the picture itself should tell you 100% that John F. Kennedy was a woman and never a man in any way. So let's read. So we're reading from a website here that's CBS News, the CBS television news that you watch on your TV, or the CBS channel that you watch on TV, which tells you the news. We're going to put up a link on the screen so you can go read this up later on at your own convenience. But we want to read and show you that John F. Kennedy was always wearing a brace. And I'm sure the dumb American public today do not know that, because they are so enamored by whatever they're told instead of looking at the truth. And we'll get to that all in a minute later on. It says here, JFK's back brace may have cost him his life, doctor says. Dr. Kenneth Salyer was a 27-year-old resident at Parkland Hospital on call for head injuries when he got word a new patient was being rushed to the ER. A nurse ran into the room and said the president's been shot, Salyer says. But nothing prepared him for what he saw. He was still breathing, he says. It's sort of agonal, labored, close to your last resort sort of breaths, but he was still breathing. As he looked down the president's grave wound, Salyer says he thought it was a major high-velocity injury, and it's in a critical place, he said. So the chances are pretty slim, and if he did survive, what would we have? When the president's clothes were removed, Salyer was surprised by what he found. Kennedy, who suffered from chronic back pain, was wearing a heavy corset-like breast that went from his chest to below his waist. He believes it cost Kennedy his life. He looked at the autopsy report and studied frame by frame the 26-second Zapruder film. You can see the Vatican Code is right there. Because every time you see those numbers show up in multiples of threes, like 26 here, which just means 2 sixes, you sometimes see a 3, a 12, a 9, multiples of 3 in one way, shape, or form. This is done in accordance with the worship of the Trinity, because everything that the government does, because the government is run by Satan through the families that run the world, must be done in worship of Satan, who is known as the Trinity. So that's why you have Trinity colleges all around, okay, in the world. So that's why you have 3 tiers of government. We already explained all that in this theme, the remnant theme, the real children of Israel, which we did point you earlier on Roll Call 1 to go watch if you want to really know all about that. So everything has to be done in the worship of Satan. So for example, you get into certain buildings which are national edifices. If you want to take a good look at how those buildings are built out, it's always going to be in multiples of 3s. It could be a 23-acre lot. The floors would be 6 floors. It will have the ability to either take maybe up to 60,000 capacitance or 6,000 seats, but something that has to be in the multiple of 3 or 3,000 seats or 30 people. Because everything the government does is in the worship of Satan. That's why you have 3 tiers of government. You have the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. That's why you have 3 tiers of school. They call it tertiary institutions. 3 tertiary. So the reason why they slid this in is because the public is not aware, because the people writing this particular story on JFK had full knowledge of what was going on with JFK. But they write this out and they sneak out this information so it looks like they're telling you some sort of truth, when they knew all along that JFK had chronic back pain, which would have been caused from all the surgeries she went through in trying to make her look like a man to you when she was actually a female. Let's continue with those pictures of JFK now. So looking at this picture, first and foremost, you should notice that this is a female sitting. I want you to take a good look at how wide JFK sits. You can see right here in the distance between the thighs and the crotch that this is a female crotch. And how wide it is. Because a woman has a wide pubic arch. The pubic arch is the space in between your thighs. The shape of the pubic arch for female is wider than a man zone because a child needs to come out of there when a woman is about to give birth. So because of this, when a woman sits, when she spreads her legs, the space in between her thighs are naturally wider. And it's going to be shaped like a U because of the space in between the crotch. When a man sits and spreads his thighs, it's going to be shaped like a V because he has no space in between his pubic crotch because he does not give birth. So this is what JFK is exhibiting. This is the first thing that you should notice, that this is a female sitting from the way he sits. The next thing you have to notice is that JFK has a very long torso because all females have elongated torsos. And albino women, anybody with straight hair, have a far more elongated torso than black women. Why is that the case? Because of albinism. Albinism, anybody who has straight hair will have an elongated torso compared to another black person of the same height in the same gender class. Because albinism makes your torso to get longer, it shortens your limbs, it gives you less muscle mass and more fat. So it's because of the elongated torsos of albinos, anybody with straight hair, it doesn't matter what ethnicity, that albino women don't have a butt. They can't get one. The only illusion they have is that they are wearing tight pants, they are fat, they have wide hips, they walk funny, but there's actually no real butt behind it. It's the tight pants and clothes and dresses that they wear that gives you an illusion that there is a butt, but there's absolutely nothing there. And no matter how much they work out, because at the end of the day, the system is always going to lie to them to make them believe that they can have a butt. And since albinos are genetically dumb, they believe what the system tells them. So they'll tell them, okay, well, go get these bands. You see a lot of these bands or glute bands. They put it on their hips. They go to the gym and they work out every single day trying to get a butt. But they can't get one because they don't have the genetics for it. They don't have enough testosterone in the body because albinism makes you to have a very small amount of testosterone in your body. And albino women have the least amount of testosterone amongst everybody else in the whole entire world. So they can't get a butt. So all they have is illusion. But they've been told that they can grow one. And because they're genetically dumb, they get those bands and get in the gym and do glute exercises from morning to night and become a nuisance. But they can't get a butt. And yet they are still so proud that they are the most beautiful creatures in the world. How silly and how stupid. But let's get back to John F. Kennedy right here to show you that he has a very elongated torso because that's the elongated torso of a female. And you can see from the way that this brace goes around his midsection that it's spreading wider, as you can notice right here in this picture from the side. Let's blow this up as much as we can for you to see that. You can see right here that this brace that goes around, you can see how the hips start spreading right here because John F. Kennedy is 100% female. This picture is not very clear because, as usual, your government won't put up very clear pictures of John F. Kennedy because they know what they're covering up, that this was a woman. So you can see right here from this brace that it has an hourglass figure, all right? Hourglass figure. On the link that we just read to you, or the information that we read to you about John F. Kennedy having a brace, which we talked about, that it was an article on CBS News. We'll put up a link for you so you can go and see this particular picture. You can see that John F. Kennedy here has an hourglass figure that's spreading wider from underneath where the elbows are supposed to be, as women should, and all the way down to his hips. You can see it's spreading wider. It's not narrow because those are childbearing hips. It's not the hips of a man. These are the hips of a female. You can tell from this picture in the way it spreads. Just follow my mouse. As you can see, it's wider going down all the way down because John F. Kennedy here was 100% female. Let's continue with some other pictures of John F. Kennedy. So here's John F. Kennedy taking a golf swing. And I want you guys to notice what's happening at the lower portion of that swing. Can you see how wide the hips are jutting out from the body? Because John F. Kennedy is 100% female. There's no man's hips that would jut this out. And you can see where is that jutting out ending. It's right below the crotch, because John F. Kennedy is 100% female, was never a man. There is an arch in this back also. John F. Kennedy, 100% female, was never a man. A president of the United States. And according to the stories that we heard of John F. Kennedy, because during that particular time, the United States was in some sort of tussle with Cuba over a missile crisis with Russia. Now, during that time period in which the Cold War was at its hottest, the Russian Federation or Russian government, which people have been made to believe is the enemy of the United States, did not even mention the fact, even by a sliver, even by a sniff, that John F. Kennedy was a woman. Wouldn't that alone have dampened the morale of the United States in the so-called Cold War? I want you to answer that question. Wouldn't it have done that? But they didn't mention it. And all the world presidents all around the world have never mentioned the fact that John F. Kennedy was a female. All the people who worked with John F. Kennedy never mentioned the fact. All the people who worked in the Oval Office who saw him, who knew for a fact that they were sitting with a female, never mentioned the fact. And the question is, how did John F. Kennedy evade all the law enforcement officials who are busy today arresting everybody in the streets for traffic infraction, for the slightest excuse that they have? Yet, they couldn't arrest an imposter in John F. Kennedy for telling the United States and the world at large that he was a male when he was a female. How did he get to that position? A transgender get to the position of being United States president, and you can't even get a cup of tea at a certain place with all the checks that go on. How did that happen? Because this whole system is run by Satan. There is no justice, there is no law and order. All what the justices do is to oppress the population, so you guys do not know the truth. But you guys will not listen. You refuse the truth. There are people who think that we are trying to sell them something, because some of them will send us an email and say they want a book and they want the videos, the DVDs, because there's so much information that we can share with you through YouTube. It's impossible to. We put it in the books. And they think that we are trying to sell them something. And people have been trained to be dumb, not to know when someone is trying to sell you something and when the person is not. If we're trying to sell you something, we should be able to at least please you in one way, shape, or form. To be able to tell you something that will make you buy what we are trying to sell. But here, we call albinos genetically dumb. We tell black people they are dumb. And if naturally everybody believes that the whole system of this world, the money of this world is in albino hands, we should be saying something to please one group of people so that they can buy what we have for them. So we can sell something to them. But we are not. Why don't people know this? Because people are dumb. They refuse common sense and truth. So when they think that they are being smart, they are actually being dumb to themselves. And they think that they are doing us a favor by getting any of our materials. We don't need to tell you anything. It costs so much human blood because the system of this world, the Vatican and the families, have been killing the people whom the Creator put to tell you the truth, because nobody can tell you the truth except the Creator sent him. Am I saying that I am one of those persons? Definitely not. But what I'm trying to make you understand is that when you study your scripture, you'll notice that only a certain people from a certain lineage were the people who could tell you the truth. They call them in the books the tribe of Levi. That is why they say the Levitical priesthood is done away with today. Because the system knows that's the only people the Creator used to speak to the world. But people are dumb. They think they are going to be able to have some knowledge if they go out on their own. Knowledge was not for everybody, because the Creator only chose certain people to speak to him, which definitely had to be of the tribe of Levi. And I am not. I have to say that again. I am not one of them. But how do I know this truth? Because we know a couple of them. All right, let's continue going with pictures of John F. Kennedy. So here's another picture of John F. Kennedy, and we still want to show you that same exact catwalk that all females have. And here is John F. Kennedy with his wife. All right. As you can see, both of them are walking in a catwalk, leaning all the weight of the body into the foot that's in front of them, as females usually do. Because John F. Kennedy here is 100% female with his wife. So you had two homosexuals in the White House, lesbians, telling you that they were a normal couple when they were homosexuals. Way back in the day, before President Obama now made homosexuality a law. Why is that? Because Satan, in order to make you people allow wickedness and immorality, has to make it legal. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem for them. Because if you preach righteousness and truth, the population will be righteous in truth. So if you are immoral and a wicked man in power, you will not be able to stay there for long, because the population is righteous and they like truth. But if you preach immorality and corruption like the governments of this world do in promoting homosexuality and transgenders and every form of moral vice, except telling you the truth and paying you for the work that you do, or telling you the most important thing, that you should plant your own crops and grow your own food and be free of this vice-filled system, which aim is only to destroy you and take your soul for Satan. They don't do that. But they make debased laws that only enslave you and enslave you for Satan. They promote laws that make people immoral, corrupt, and wicked, and promote wickedness throughout the whole system to cover up their own tracks. Because when everybody is immoral, corrupt, and wicked, nobody's going to be able to arrest them and say, what are you doing? Because now, in today's world, homosexuality is a norm. Instead of looking at it as the debased, most gross thing that ever happens, people now accept it. So, with John F. Kennedy right here, you can see that John F. Kennedy is walking like a woman, because John F. Kennedy was 100% female, was not a man in any way, shape, or form. He's in the same stride, because it's actually a she, walking with his wife, or wife, if there is such a thing, because they are two females. Catwalk, leaning the weight of the body into the foot that's in front of it, because John F. Kennedy is 100% female. Another picture of John F. Kennedy, and here's John F. Kennedy still trying to show you that same sitting position of which females sit. You can see that as John F. Kennedy is sitting here, this hip, right? Because when a woman sits in a chair, her hips naturally spread outside the torso of the body, because a woman naturally has wider hips. So when a woman crosses her legs, the hips are going to be so obvious, and she's going to cross it properly at her thighs, unlike males. And this is what John F. Kennedy is exhibiting here. In the way that she's sitting, the hips are spreading wider outside the torso of the body from underneath the elbows, because John F. Kennedy is 100% female, as you can see right here. Wide hip sitting position. John F. Kennedy, the United States President, 100% female. Let's continue on. Here's another picture of John F. Kennedy. As you can see, there is an arch in that back, and she was constantly wearing a brace because of the so many surgeries and drugs and hormones that they have fed to this woman in trying to make her look like a man to deceive you. But why is there so much deception? This is the biggest question nobody asked. If these people said they were transgender, what would be the problem? Why do they have to deceive you? Because they are servants. They are not real people. They might be real to you, but they are not real. What do we mean they are not real? They did not get into this position through their own hard work, organically, as you're made to believe. That they served maybe in the United States military, from there they moved on up the ranks until they got to president. It's all bullshit. If you believe those stories, that the people that you see who are pulling the strings, who are the people in power, went up to that position through their own hard work and merit, you are dumber than a worm crawling underneath warm or cold soil. Let's continue with some more pictures of John F. Kennedy. Here's John F. Kennedy again. As you can see right here, John F. Kennedy is trying to find the waist position to place her hands on. But it does not exist, because you can tell from the way she's trying to place her hands that he doesn't have a waist there. Because that's not the waist. That is John F. Kennedy's hips. It's not the waist. A woman's waist is naturally up here. A man's waist is naturally down. But John F. Kennedy is trying to grasp, and you can see it's still spreading wider all the way down, because John F. Kennedy is 100% female. He's trying to put her hands on a male waist, but what she's ending up doing is still grabbing the circumference of a spreading hip. A female birth hip. Childbearing hips. This is what John F. Kennedy is placing her hands on, and it's not a male waist, because John F. Kennedy is 100% female. Let's go to another picture of John F. Kennedy. And here's John F. Kennedy. I want you to take a very good look at this picture. In the mannerisms, in the way John F. Kennedy is sitting, is that a man sitting with his children? No. These are two homosexuals, lesbians in the White House. One being portrayed to you to be a man when it's actually a female. Because you can see from the demeanor of the way John F. Kennedy is sitting that the hips are spreading wider. John F. Kennedy right here is wearing some sort of baggy pants to cover up that female form. But it still shows through the clothes, because these are all hips. As you can see, it's spreading wider. You see, this is where his waist would be. His navel's right around here, and this spreads all the way further down. And look at the arms. Look at the arms of John F. Kennedy, the way that watch goes around that arm, because it's a female arm. Look at the way she sits right here. John F. Kennedy was a woman, 100% female. Was not a man in any way, shape, or form. You can tell by these huge, humongous hips that's curving everywhere. Even in the baggy clothes that he's wearing, or she's wearing, as we would say it. Because John F. Kennedy is 100% female. Let's continue with some other pictures. Here's another picture of John F. Kennedy right here, and you can still see that Q angle, right? That curvaceous Q angle. Arch in the back, right? See that? It's curving into a C. Follow my mouse. See that? Curving into C. Curving into a C. Follow my mouse, as you can see right here. Until it reaches down, and as you can see right here, the Q angle, the start position of the Q angle, the angle between the hips and the knees, which is very acute for females because they have wider hips, starts below the crotch, because John F. Kennedy is 100% female and was not a man in any way, shape, or form. And here's John F. Kennedy again. We couldn't get a very clear picture, but this was one of the pictures that we tried to look up of her when she had no clothes on. You can tell by this breast tissue here, because naturally a woman's chest doesn't have a lot of muscle mass, because it's meant to carry mammary glands for breastfeeding of children. All right, so because of this, the breast naturally will always want to point downwards. With a man's chest, it's not going to be the same. A man's chest, because he has a lot of muscles, will naturally always want to point upwards. It's not going to be sagging down. But in John F. Kennedy's case, this is actually what's happening. The breast tissue is pointing downwards, because it needs to point downwards for a child to be able to suckle. So the structures of both males and females in their chest is different. And this is what John F. Kennedy is exhibiting. Now let's go further now, down lower to John F. Kennedy's waistline. All right. See that line right there? That's not the male indentation line for the waist. That is a female abdomen showing that it's had some sort of surgery. So that's why it looks this way. The demarcation between this place and the hips is not as the demarcation of a male waist, because John F. Kennedy is 100% female. So that's why they don't show the full view of John F. Kennedy. They just show her in this kind of position, not to show that she has an arch in the back. But we can tell, because from the way this waist is sloping downwards, that this is a woman's back with an arch in it of the slope. Because a female's butt naturally starts all the way just below her rib cage. That's where a woman's butt starts, because all that body portion down is all pelvis. So a woman has a longer, wider butt. So the butt travels longer. And this is what is exhibiting. Because if this was John F. Kennedy's waist, this place right here, this portion, if you follow my mouse, I know it's not a very good picture, should be straight, but rather it's spreading, it's tilting backwards, because it's a female waistline. Because John F. Kennedy is 100% female. Let's go to another picture of John F. Kennedy, and we still want to show you what those arms of John F. Kennedy are doing. They are following the contours of the body, as you can see right here, following the contours of the bodies. And you can see that around the midsection is all very huge and round, as a female should be, because John F. Kennedy is 100% female, was never a man in any way, shape, or form. Another picture of John F. Kennedy, and you can still see right here in that hip swing, as it juts and extends all the way out, that John F. Kennedy is 100% female. And you can see the arch in the back from the way she swings the Gauff, that John F. Kennedy is female and was in no wise, shape, or form a man. With that, let's continue on. Next up on our take on roll call is Wendy Williams. We never had any intention of doing any Wendy Williams investigation or gender check, but the more that we watch him on TV, and the fact that the people around Wendy Williams, including all the so-called actors, actresses, and music artists that you guys love listening to, radio personalities, and everybody who's a maker and a mover around the world, across all the continents of the world, from the United States to Europe to Asia to Australia to Africa, all meet Wendy Williams day and night, even so-called Africans, and they have never ever mentioned it to their own people on a news, radio, or talk show that Wendy Williams is a man. This is how terrible the conspiracy against humankind is, practiced by those that you look up to. They have never remotely mentioned the fact, but they do know, as we're going to show you in a clip of some video clips in which Wendy Williams himself declares that he's a man as well as, you know, on a TV personality show called Wild and Out on MTV, in which the people, the presenters in that show, take aim at Wendy Williams, trying to make you understand that Wendy Williams is a man, but yet they never ever say it publicly, because they're the ones who keep Wendy Williams on the TV show that you watch called Wendy Williams. Isn't it crazy what the government is doing to you? And yet they are telling you that they are working in your own best interest. So let's take a look at Wendy Williams, because people, you need to understand this. If you've studied your Bible, you would know that if all you have is the creator and something else, because some people believe that there's a creator, they believe in such things as evolution and all the other ideas on how we came to be in this world. You don't actually believe in the creator. You are practicing Satanist. I want you to remember this. When this world was destroyed during the flood of Noah, as the Bible says, 8 people were saved from the trillions that existed in Noah's time. Why is that the case? Because the whole population is confused. They think they are following after the Creator, but what they are really doing is becoming practicing Satanists. Because they refuse truth. When Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed, 3 people came out of it alive. In the over how many millions that we have on this world right now, if the Creator was to show up, how many people do you think would make it? Because it shows you the level of confusion and wickedness that humanity is into, because they refuse the truth. They believe in the Creator and they believe in other things also. You can only believe in the Creator, in what He says. You have to judge everything. You can't have mixed beliefs, otherwise you are not of Him. So let's get on to Wendy Williams now, because we don't have a lot of time. As you can see, Wendy Williams is trying to deceive you that there is an arch in that back, but you can see right here that there is no C, because a female's back is going to arch like a C. It's not going to be angled as this one is, because indicative of what's going on here with Wendy Williams is the fact that he's removed some of his ribs. So that's why this particular place here has this angular shape. It's not a C arch, because Wendy Williams is 100% male. If you check on this shot over here, Wendy Williams has no hips below the crotch, as a regular female should, because the highest position in Wendy Williams' hips, or the widest position as it should be if she was female, is actually above the crotch right here, because Wendy Williams is 100% male. Let's continue with some more pictures. And here is Wendy Williams again. As you can see, where are the hips right here? Can you see any? Where are the childbearing hips of a female? Wendy Williams has got none, because as you can see right here, the widest position, right, is above the crotch. Here's Wendy Williams' crotch. Where are the hips? It starts up here. The Q angle starts up so high. The Q angle is the angle between the hip and the knee. As you can see right here, it's still an angular back, because the ribs are removed. And you see this position here? That's not Wendy Williams' navel. That's constructed surgery. The navel's right around here, but it's been covered up by surgery. This shows you how wicked these doctors who practice this on humanity are. That's the state of the medical industry. The medical industry kills more people than it actually saves. Because all the sicknesses that people are going through this world are poisons caused by your government. They poison your food, they poison your water, and they're the ones giving you the solutions. And when you go to a hospital for any problem, you come back with 1,000 complications. And what you went to solve does not even amount to the complications that you get from it. I had a friend who wanted to do a bypass surgery. I begged and pleaded with this friend, please don't do it. I know you may think you're fat, but there is a way to lose the weight and lose it properly. Please don't do it. No matter what they tell you about bypass surgeries, the complications that come out of it will not be worth the weight that you're trying to lose, when you can lose it naturally if you do due diligence of going to the gym and making it a lifestyle, not just something that you spend a few minutes in here and there, but making it a lifestyle for you and doing the right things in the gym. Because a lot of people go to the gym and do a whole bunch of nonsense which will not help them to be fit. They won't see any results. But if you do it the right way, you'll definitely get results. I begged and pleaded, but my friend went along and did the surgery, and now is having complications. Lost all the weight, but now there are complications. Why is that? Because people refuse common sense, logic, and reasoning. There were no hospitals until 500 years ago. Why is it that everything we now do, we have to go to a hospital for solution? How were your great-grandparents giving birth to babies and surviving without a hospital? Because people do not understand that there's so many diseases and sicknesses which people are suffering from are all caused by your government. They are deliberately poisoning your food and water. Deliberately. And then they create all these wicked doctors to give you solutions who impile more complications upon you. Why? Because the government knows that if the population is weak, they'll never be able to stand up to their wickedness and call them to order. Somebody who is weak in body can never be strong in mind. And this happens with albinos. Anybody with straight hair, they are very afraid of everything because it's a genetic defect. The body is genetically sick. Once you're genetically sick, all what your mind is trying to do and your soul is trying to heal that body. Doesn't have time for anything else. A man on a sick bed doesn't have time for anything else except thinking about how to get well. Thinking about how to get out of that bed. So how are you going to be strong? You're going to be weak. So this is what these wicked doctors can do to change the anatomy of man to suit what the government wants them to be. And they are enjoying and having so much money, sitting in their house with 10 cars and real estate everywhere. But they forget that the Creator will come calling. It's already happening right now. The government has been socially engineering the population, and you are going to see how bad the side effects are. Let's continue on with some more pictures of Wendy Williams right here. And here's Wendy Williams. As you can see right here, the widest portion on Wendy Williams' hips is above the crotch and not below it like it should be for a female, because Wendy Williams is 100% male. It doesn't take a 4-year-old kid to realize that on TV. It's just that over time, when you're being given repeatedly pictures and things to ponder on which you know are false, after a while you slowly begin to accept the evil that's before you. So what the government does, the families who run the world through the Vatican, is that they keep repeating the same thing over and over in your ear. After a while, you lose all resistance against it. So, for example, homosexuality is repeated everywhere. So, for example, you turn on your TV now, and in ads that talk about drugs that can cure whatever disease that you have or sickness which the government has deliberately put upon you, you find homosexuality. You find homosexuality in everything. Why do they constantly paint those pictures of homosexuality on you? In everything, because they want you to be desensitized about it. So the resistance that you had, because you're seeing it every day, you slowly get less resistance to it and you accept it as a norm. In the same way, if you tell people the truth constantly and they hear it every now and then, what will happen? People will naturally acclimatize to the truth. So when you hear us repeat certain words, for example, that all albinos are genetically dumb, we want you to get in your mind. Or when we say that the government is the reason for all your problems, we want you to get in your mind. So constant repetition of the right things will make you to know the truth. You will accept it. In the same way in your life, you have to constantly remind yourself of what's right. You have to constantly say the right words to yourself. You don't need to say it to anybody else, but you need to say it to yourself. A constant reminder. That's how the truth sinks into your brain. A constant use of the right words. Constantly. Otherwise, if you think you just know stuff today and you're not putting it in practice, by repetition, then you're going to fall into what the government, Satan, wants you to be wicked, corrupt, and immoral. Let's continue with some more pictures of Wendy Williams. So here's Wendy Williams again. As you can see, Wendy Williams now is trying to put his arms on the female waist, but it doesn't exist because he's a construction. All the so-called personalities that meet this man have never mentioned remotely the fact that they have been hanging around with a man. So Wendy Williams here has the straight back of a man trying to place his hands on the female waist. But as you can see, it's all awkward because there is no waist there. The waist is further down here below, with a constructed and distorted belly and a navel position which doesn't actually exist. This is what goes on in the surgery rooms with these transgenders trying to change their form. Let's go to another picture. Here's Wendy Williams with the so-called husband, right? So you can see you have two homosexuals and they've been lying to you that they are what? That they are a normal, regular couple. But as you can see right here, Wendy Williams, the highest point, look at where the Q angle starts, right here. The highest point is above the crotch because Wendy Williams is 100% male and not a female. So that's why his hips are above the crotch. There's no hips below it. The Q angle starts right there. And these two have been lying to you that they are a regular couple when you have two homosexuals right here. Let's continue on. Wendy Williams again, and we still want to keep showing you the crotch. Where are the hips? There is none whatsoever. No hips below the crotch as a regular female should be. It's all above because Wendy Williams is 100% male. Lying to you on TV. All the gossip that he says, he hasn't gossiped enough to say, I'm a man. Here's another picture of Wendy Williams. The same old thing. The hips are above the crotch. It's not below it because Wendy Williams is 100% male. Same here. So you can see it very clearly now. It's a straight back. There is no arch in the back, no C-shaped arch, which a female should have because Wendy Williams is 100% male. Straight back of a male. In here, it's contorted because the ribs are removed. As you can see, it's not a C-shaped. Everyone has a C-shaped arch in the back. It's not going to be this turned around triangle or arrow point as it looks right here in the drawing of this back because Wendy Williams, he's 100% male and not a woman in any way, shape, or form. So Wendy Williams right here again, as you can see walking. As you can see, how does Wendy Williams' arms flow? Can you notice that? It doesn't follow the contours of the body as a regular woman's arms should be. They are swinging outside the contours of the body. Swinging like a man's arm because it's actually male. And what do you notice about what we told you? A man's arm angles outwards. It doesn't angle inwards here as a regular female should be. It angles on the outside of the arm. Because Wendy Williams here is 100% male. And a lot of people now who knew the first time they saw Wendy Williams that they were looking at a man. Because of over time of seeing him on TV, they've become desensitized. They now think it's actually a female. That's how the government plays on your mindset. They know that if they keep repeating the same thing over and over to you again, which is false, you'll actually believe it as true. As you're going to find out later on in this video as we keep going on roll call. Let's keep moving. Wendy Williams again, as we showed you earlier, when a man hangs his arms by his side, all right, it forms a diamond shape. It doesn't form the soft arrow points pointing towards the torso of the body as a regular female is, because Wendy Williams is 100% male. The only thing that he's using to confuse you is because a man will look at him and be distracted by this fake plastic surgery of a chest. 100% male, not a man in any way. So same thing that we wanted to show you here again. As you can see, Wendy Williams hangs his arms, and as you can see, it's angling outside. The arms are not following the contours of the body because there is none to follow. It's a man's arms. So we're going to play some clips of you to listen to what Wendy Williams says and how you guys don't pay attention to what the media tells you. Because here is how the government tells you truth. They tell you truth and they cover it up with so many lies. So the truth that you heard doesn't sound like truth anymore. So if you're not paying attention to the finer details, which a lot of people won't be able to do, because to be wise, to be intelligent, you have to be built for it. That's how intelligence works. Otherwise, everybody in the world would have figured this thing out by now, but they haven't. Because intelligence is not for everybody. Why is it not for everybody? It's not for everybody because the way the Creator designed this world, He's designed it in such a way that you have to know that there is a Creator. So if everybody was intelligent at this level, at the highest level, then they would all become like the Creator. Then we wouldn't know that there is a Creator. I hope you get that. So He designed it in such a way that intelligence is not for everybody. Otherwise, you would not know there's a Creator because you would think yourself to be wise and intelligent as well. I hope that makes sense. So when you're busy trying to get to know what you want to know, all right, the only thing that the Creator has given you to lead you to the truth is that when you hear the truth, you will know it if you are going after the truth. But if you're going after lies, you will hear the truth and deny it. That's how this works. That's how this world was built. Let's play some clips for you to hear Wendy Williams with his own mouth say that he is a man in passing. No female will make mention of what Wendy Williams said by addressing himself as we, us men, as you will hear in this clip. And also we'll play another clip in which some presenters on the Wild 'N Out show make fun of Wendy Williams, but you guys did not catch what they said because they covered it up as a joke because they all know that Wendy Williams is a man.
I don't know if like next time this happens, should I say something or should I just ignore?
My opinion is that people come on to people when people don't put up the proper blockage. You know what I'm saying? You're not the only one with a hot man in this audience, okay? And I venture to say most of us men don't get approached like, okay? And I venture to say most of us men don't get approached like that, okay? And I venture to say most of us men don't get approached like that when we're with them. That's your man.